right. Can everyone hear me out there? Excellent. Okay. All right. So, hello and welcome to our students and families joining us for the financial aid and FAFSA night presentation. We will begin shortly. We will start off with some brief introductions to allow families a chance to come in on the call and not to miss too much information. There's so much to discuss when it comes to making financial decisions and preparations for college. Okay. Tonight's presentation will be recorded and available to access from the school's website after tonight. Okay. 1 second, please.
Miss Campbell, you're muted.
Thank you. All right. Did you hear the information from the other slide? This one about the counselors? No? Okay. All right. So again, this is our counseling staff. Over on the right-hand side is a list of the counselors whose names should be familiar to you all. As counselors are assigned to students by their last name. And then on the left-hand side, you will find the contact for our Dean of Student Services, who manages and supervises our department, Ms. Cruz, our SAP counselor, who assists families who are in transition or who share concerns of needing support outside of academics. And Mr. Young is our SEL counselor, and he supports students with social and emotional learning. Okay, and this slide here shows our student services staff. On the right is I'm sorry. This slide here shows a list of staff members who are frequent points of contact for our graduating juniors and seniors. So Miss Kay Manning is our front desk secretary for the Student Services Department. She can direct or connect you with the appropriate person for your questions or concerns. Ms. Howard is our data manager. She manages the database and Infinite Campus for our school. Students who are in need of a transcript to send to a college or university and they are not applying through Common App need to complete the request online through Scribe Order. And Ms. Landor is our registrar and she processes all of those requests. Miss Sharon Manning is our career development coordinator, and she assists students who are in need of help creating or improving their resumes and and interpreting results for career assessments. And Miss Rosario is our Spanish family liaison. She supports our students and families whose preferred language is Spanish. If you have a student in the IB program, you should follow up with Mr. Thane for any questions about the IB courses, exams, and the IB program overall. Miss Gill is our senior class advisor. So anything that is pertaining to senior events, including paying on senior dues, she is your point of contact. And Miss Watson is the graduation coach. And you will hear more from her in the spring semester about graduation rehearsal, graduation tickets, and the graduation ceremony. We have a special shout out for our Wake Tech partners who are on the call with us tonight, Miss Bass and Miss Saunders. Seniors should become well acquainted with Miss Bass for our weekly Wake Tech, programs. She's on campus every Tuesday, helping students with applications and RDS. And then Miss Saunders will be visiting as well. She is our financial aid outreach specialist. And so she is supporting students with creating FSA IDs and for FAFSA labs and any other questions that are pertaining to financial aid. And we thank Ms. Saunders for being on the call tonight. All right, so parents and guardians, when you ask your student what's going on at school, oftentimes they say, I don't know, or they might not say anything at all, okay? So please help us by reminding them to check their emails. We don't want for them to miss out on answers to their questions or any important information that has been communicated. All right, and guess what? We are on social media. So be sure to follow us on Instagram to see snapshots of the work we're doing on behalf of students and receive information on the latest happenings in our department and programs.
Good evening and welcome to our students and their families tuning into this presentation. My name is James Q and I'm one of the counselors here at Southeast. The title of this presentation is Finding Money for College or Career School, the Basics of Financial Aid and the FAFSA Process. Okay, Ms. Campbell, next slide, please. So tonight we will talk about these topics: federal student aid, state student aid, institutional aid, and scholarships from other sources. Also, we'll answer these questions. What is financial aid? Who can get it? How much can I get? How do I apply? What happens next? And where can I get more information? So now we will have Ms. Saunders, financial aid specialist from Wake Tech Community College, expound upon these topics for us.
Thank you so much. And can everyone hear me? Good. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So, what is financial aid? So, this is essentially any money you receive to pay for college or career school. And this can look like grants, work study funds, loans, or scholarships. We're going to go more into depth on each of these, but just to kind of give a quick overview, Grants is a type of aid that you do not have to pay back. You might hear this referred to as gift aid or free money, and this is the type of aid that we within federal financial aid we want all of you to get. This is the based off of the FAFSA that you submit, and this can be both federal grants as well as state grants, depending on the information on the FAFSA. Work study funds is essentially it's a fund that you can earn by hours worked at a job that you work at the school you are attending. So this is a fund that is also through the FAFSA. And the thing that's great about work study is that essentially this is a job that has rules attached for us as supervisors. We cannot schedule you during class. We cannot schedule you during finals. And we essentially have to make sure that you are successful in school in order for us to keep you as an employee. And so you're going to have a partnership with your supervisor that you will not find unless you have a really, really great supervisor at a non work study job you might get off campus. For loans, these are typically through the FAFSA, or you can find loans through a private lender. And these are loans that you have to pay back after you graduate. So any funds you receive as a loan must be repaid with interest. And finally, scholarships. Now, these can range. It can very much be scholarships through your college, or it can be scholarships that you apply for in your community or through national searches. So we'll go through a little bit more of those as we keep going, but you'll notice this link here at studentaid.gov/types will also give you a bit more information about the types of aid you may see as you're applying for financial aid. So I first wanted to highlight North Carolina specific scholarships. So one of the most common two that you'll see is one is the Next NC Scholarship. So you must be a North Carolina resident as determined by the NC residency application. If you're not sure what that is, don't worry. One, I know that the fantastic crew that you have with you in your school will make sure that you have access to this, but also we will have a link to this later in the presentation. You must be enrolled in at least 6 credit hours within the UNC system or at an NC community college to be eligible for this. And this is a scholarship that is awarded to students who are Pell Grant eligible or their family has an income below $80,000 per year. And you can receive up to $3,000 for the year if you're at a community college, or up to $5,000 per year if you're at a 4-year university or college. For the NC Need-Based Scholarship, once again, you must be a North Carolina resident, but this is for if you are attending a private college or university. So you must have completed a FAFSA and be Pell Grant eligible, and the amounts for this can vary. It largely depends on the school and the cost of attendance, which we'll be chatting about here in a moment. But in order to apply for these, you do have to file the FAFSA, and the school in which you are attending will review you for these just through the normal FAFSA process that you will complete just later this month, hopefully. So how much federal student aid can I get? So unfortunately, the answer is it depends. It largely depends on your financial need. So I wanted to chat a bit about what is financial need, because I will tell you that you're going to hear a lot about some of these words a ton in the next few months as you are starting to apply for school. So, financial need is determined by the Student Aid Index, or SAI, and your school's cost of attendance, or COA. And essentially, the SAI is the number that is determined by all the information that you put into your application for federal aid, known as the FAFSA. Everything you put on that application essentially goes into a formula and it comes up with this Student Aid Index. Your cost of attendance at the school can differ depending on what school you are attending. But it is for the college or career school you are attending. It includes things like your tuition, fees, housing, food, transportation, even like personal expenses like shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, all of that. And essentially, your cost of attendance doesn't just count your direct costs, which are those that you would actually pay as a bill to the college. It also includes those indirect things that you will just pay for in life while you are attending. So when you're looking at colleges, you may see these really large numbers as the cost of attendance. You might see things that are like 36,000, 45,000, some maybe even 98,000, which can be very scary when you're looking at this as, oh my goodness, that's how much I'm going to have to pay. But really, it breaks down based on what are you going to be paying directly to the school and what are you going to be paying for just while you attend. So that can be your tuition and fees, which you will pay towards the institution, and then things like food, rent, life expenses that are happening and you pay elsewhere. So we include all of those things because we want to make sure that we are looking at the true cost it is to be a student when we are determining your financial need. So your financial need is determined by that cost of attendance from the school minus that student aid index equals that financial need, which is the amount of aid that we can give you within those grants and scholarships and need based aid. So, when we're looking at these maximum amounts that you can receive, so for 2025, 2026, which you'll see for 26, 27 soon, the federal Pell Grant, you can receive up to $7,395 for the year. You also can receive federal work study, like we chatted about before, but that depends largely on the school and the funds they have available. But it does involve that need calculation we mentioned before. For direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans, the maximum you can receive as a first year student who is considered dependent, which we'll talk about, is 5,500 total. And for Direct Plus loan, this is a loan that you as the parent could take out to help your student pay for college expenses. That is up to the cost of attendance. So it can be a pretty big loan if you need it to be. It's your cost of attendance minus all other aid received is the amount that you can take out as a loan. So, if you are curious to know a little bit more about these types of aid, you can actually look on the student government website, studentaid.gov, understand aid types, and it will give you a much more thoroughly broken down sort of explanation for eligibility. So now you're probably thinking like, hey, I would like all that grant and scholarship money, none of those loans, please. How do I know if I'm eligible for those? So of course, once you file the FAFSA, you will be able to get this estimate. But if you're not quite at that point of your college journey yet, you can actually go through the Federal Student Aid Estimator. So at this website on your screen, you can actually put in some of your financial information. It doesn't include any of your personally identifiable information, so don't worry about needing to include like social security number or anything like that. It is purely just an estimate to let you know if you could be eligible for grants or some loans or the types of aid that we've already chatted about. So now let's talk about scholarships. Now, scholarships can be, like I said before, through the college itself. So when you're applying, they may have their own scholarship application that you have to fill out and submit to be reviewed for them. But you also can certainly look for external scholarships. And these can be things that are within your community or they could be national searches. And so I would recommend everybody with a phone scan this QR code and it will take you to cfnc.org. And this website's fantastic because it gives you a lot of information about the North Carolina grants and scholarships. And it also has a scholarship search engine. And this search engine will also show you external scholarships from the North Carolina community, as well as some truly fantastic national scholarships. So also from what you see on this slide is that the lovely people that take care of you every day at your school also have a scholarship bulletin that they will send out through email and keep it updated very regularly. So definitely keep checking your email for this free scholarship search engines. I always like to tell students when they're first in this beginning stage, because there are a lot of scholarships out there and and sometimes it can feel overwhelming. If you look at some of these lists, it's huge, which is great, but also you're like, where do I even start? So, if you are going through the scholarship search engines, I always tell folks start local. Start with what you see within the Raleigh area, North Carolina, and then keep moving your way out to national. And the reason why is because the national searches have a huge amount of students that are applying for them. Not saying you won't get it, but our local, more like homegrown scholarships, they want to support our community. And it's a great way to get some of these scholarships to get you started in your first year. So now, how do I apply for aid? So this is some of these links that I was telling you. I please feel free to take a picture of this. So one, federal student aid, you want to apply at FAFSA.gov and or studentaid.gov. They both go to the same spot, and that's where you can fill out your FAFSA, which we'll be talking about in more detail here in a moment. For state aid, when we chatted about this, you do need to complete your NC residency application. Essentially, you do need to determine that you are an in state resident, and you do so at ncresidency.org. And you also will want to create an account at cfnc.org, which you just saw on that QR code in the last slide. For school aid, you would actually just want to contact the financial aid offices at the schools in which you are considering. They may just automatically review you when you apply, and others may have you have a separate application. But either way, almost every school has an additional scholarship process to help you get more of that free money to avoid more of the loan money you have to pay back. And then also, as you saw, the scholarship bulletin and free reputable scholarship search engines are a great option. And so we also now are going to chat a bit more about the CSS profile, and I'm going to kick it over to one of the other colleagues on the call to talk about this in more detail.
Good evening. Thank you. The CSS profile is an online application used by colleges and scholarship programs to award non-federal institutional aid. Most students complete the application in their senior year of high school starting on October 1st. Schools may have different deadlines, so be sure to check each school that you are applying to. Check your college's information to determine whether they require the CSS profile. A list of participating schools is available online. Some schools may also require divorced or separated parents to complete separate applications. The CSS profile may only be submitted through the sign-on link available at cssprofile.org. And here's a list of schools that will need a completed CSS profile. Please compare this list to the schools your student has either applied to or intends to submit a college application to. On September 4th, Mr. Clark emailed out this video about competitive scholarships to seniors. We will not show the video tonight in this presentation, but the link was also emailed out to parents and guardians. We encourage you to watch this video to learn more information on competitive scholarships. If your senior is interested in applying for any of these scholarships, please follow up with Mr. Clark.
Thank you so much. Also, you have a beautiful voice for a podcast. If you don't already have a podcast, I would watch it. You have a beautiful speaking voice. So I am back. Hello, everybody. So now we're going to be chatting a bit about Wake Tech in particular, but also I'm going to give a bit more in-depth information about the FAFSA, the FSA ID, and kind of your next steps for that process. So first, you've been hearing me say FAFSA a million times. So what does this even mean? So it's an acronym, and it stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And so this is that application that puts you in the running for all federal and most state aid you can receive in college. So, in order to start college and receive aid for fall 2026 or spring 2027, you will need to first create an FSA ID for both the student as well as for the parents. And we're going to talk a bit about that in a minute about why. And you need to complete the 2026-2027 FAFSA. That they said it would open on October 1st, 2025, but they sneakily opened it yesterday. So, if just say you do want to fill out your FAFSA early, you could actually do so tonight if you so wanted, since it is already available. Just keep in mind that you do need to file a new FAFSA every year. It is unfortunately not a one and done. So you do need to remember to file the FAFSA. And since it typically opens in October, I just tell folks the minute you see Halloween costumes at any of your local stores, just think FAFSA and get it done. That's typically when the FAFSA will open for you. And finally, the most important part of this is that first F, free. Never pay to file a FAFSA. It is free by design. You may see some services that say that if you pay them a fee, they will get you more aid or they'll file your FAFSA in the best possible way. Don't do it. It's not worth it. And there are plenty of free services, such like us at Wake Tech, that can help you file the FAFSA without any money out of your own pocket. So I'm going to go over some Wake Tech deadlines, but I'm also going to take the opportunity to talk about the FAFSA deadlines in general in case you are looking at multiple schools. So for Wake Tech, if you are planning to start with us in the fall, you're going to want to make sure you complete your FAFSA by June 1st and submit any documents we need by July 1st. For spring, October 1st, documents in a month later by November. And if you're starting in the summer, it is April 1st with a May 1st document deadline. Now, every school may have different deadlines. Essentially, what this deadline is called is a priority deadline. So if you filed after this date, you will still be eligible for aid in most cases. But essentially, what these dates are for is that if you file your FAFSA by June 1st, we are going to review this pool of students first for all our aid types, including those that might run out before the end of the year. So those who file after the priority deadline still very well may receive all aid they would have anyway, but we just can't guarantee it as much since we are focusing on this group first. So every school may have a different priority deadline. So it's important that when you are getting ready to file the FAFSA, if you have a few schools in mind, that you know when their priority deadline is so you can file in time. Typically, if you file your FAFSA within like October, you're going to meet any deadline that's out there. The earliest priority deadline I've ever heard of is November 15th. So I would typically say that if you get it done this month, you are totally fine. But it's absolutely vital that you are in that priority deadline every year you are in attendance at a school. So federal student aid ID. So this is essentially just a very, very fancy login. This is what you do to log into your account, and it's also how you sign your FAFSA, and it's also how your parent will sign the FAFSA. So all contributors to the FAFSA do need to have their own FSA ID. So each person that has to submit information is called a contributor, and that is the student. If the student is married, they'd have to have their spouse. And then if they are considered a dependent student, they would have to have their parents also sign the FAFSA. So in order to create that FSA ID account, you will need to have access to your social security number if you have one, as well as an email address. So make sure the email address you use is one that you will be able to access and will remember how to log into for the foreseeable future, because this FSA ID will be for your associates, your bachelor's, your master's, your PhD. It will be forever for with you filling out this FAFSA. So I strongly recommend using a personal email that you know you will have access to. And parents, make sure that when you fill it out, it is one that you know that you have access to and can check regularly. So we've been chatting a lot about dependent parents, and one of the most common questions we get is one, do I have to include my parents? And very, very valid question. So, a lot of folks, when they're getting into college, parents, you are not required to pay for your child's education. And students, you very well may be completely self supporting. But in order for a student to be considered independent and therefore not need to include a parent, they would have to be over the age of 24, or they would need to have a child or dependent of their own, or be married, or be active duty military or a military veteran past the point of basic training. If just say there are a few more gray areas for this, where if just say a student was in foster care after the age of 13, if they have a legal guardian other than their biological parents, amongst some other things, you very well could be considered an independent. But for the most part, it is these qualifications that would allow you to not include your parent. Okay, I love that we already have a question, but hold tight and then we will come right back to you, okay? So, now let's just say, okay, you go through the FAFSA and the FAFSA says you're a dependent student according to your answers. We must include the parents. Now, if your parents are separated, one of the most common questions we get is, okay, now which one? Which parent do I include? So, from the FAFSA, they say the parent who supplied over 50% of financial support within the last 12 months. Now, this could be from you living with them, or it could be truly them supporting you, helping pay bills for the last 12 months. Now, for parents, when you are discussing this, if you're like, we truly split this straight down the middle, it is 50-50. If there truly isn't any sort of difference between the support between parents, then it is whatever parent earns more income. So if the parents are separated and you are only including one parent, just remember, if that parent is remarried, you do have to include that step parent. So I know that it sounds so easy, but life isn't that easy, right? So if just say you're not entirely sure if one, you have to include parents, or two, which parent you should include on the FAFSA, there is this really handy which parent wizard from studentaid.gov that I've included the QR code here that will allow you to answer some questions, and it will help you determine who should be included on that FAFSA for you. And we can certainly pause for a question.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that the QR code is not working. That was my only question. Thank you.
I tested it
I
and
went to-
everything.
I went to scan it first because I knew that was my predicament, but it's not working for me. It says the site can't provide a secure connection. QR codes
What? It's
sent
working for
in
me. Here, I'll
invalid response.
put it in the chat then, because I did work for
Oh,
me, but I will just put it in the chat.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I'll mute now. Thank you so much.
Oh, yay. Okay, if I'm gonna put it in the chat, so anyone else, if just say your phone is not trusting the government website, which fair, don't worry, I'll put it in the chat for y'all. Okay, so completing the FAFSA application. So here is the information and materials that you will need in order to get started. So first, and probably the most puzzling thing for people that when they're first filling out the FAFSA, is that you need your federal income tax returns or your wage documents from 2 years prior. So for the 2026-2027 year, you will actually need your 2024 income information. And the reason for this is they want to give people enough time to file their taxes. And sometimes people don't necessarily get it done in 1 year. So it's supposed to kind of give some relief, especially for those who are filing taxes from a business, because those can be complicated. Next, you're going to need current balances of cash, savings, and checking accounts. And this is truly just a snapshot in time. So literally the moment you're filling out the FAFSA, the amounts that are in your accounts are what you report. You don't need to overthink it. And 3, records of child support received, if applicable, of course. And then any record of investments, net worth of investments, businesses, and farms, if you have them. And if you have any questions about any of the amounts for those things, I would certainly recommend talking to your tax preparer or your accountant, who can certainly help determine those amounts. So, one thing that's really cool about this new FAFSA is that a lot of this information, especially for your federal income, will actually automatically be brought into the FAFSA automatically without you having to enter it in manually. But just in case, it's good to have them handy in case you do end up needing to fill it out manually if you're not eligible for that automatic import. So next steps after submission, and I see the question in the chat, and that's an excellent question, so I will answer it for the group after I'm through this part. So next steps after submission. So one, check your email. This is why it's so important to use an email that you have access to. This is going to give you the confirmation that it's been received. It's also going to give you a sneaky little estimate of what you could be eligible for. So even just from that first submission, you will get an idea of what that student aid index is, that number we talked about earlier that determines your eligibility for grants and is calculated within that need. And it also lets you know if you're eligible for Pell Grant as well as loans. And with that student aid index, the number itself is not going to mean a whole lot to you. But what I will tell you is the lower the number is, the more eligible you are for gift aids such as Pell Grant. So if you see a negative number, do not be worried. That's a good thing because the SAI is from negative 1,500 up to 999,999. It's a very, very big range. But if you find yourself in the negative, that's a good thing. That means we're going to be able to get you grants. So with that FAFSA submission summary that you'll receive once your FAFSA is all complete, you will see that estimated eligibility and also will give you some more next steps. It also will let you know if you've been selected for verification. So verification is the process in which we in the financial aid office may need to ask for additional documents from you to essentially give your FAFSA a once over and correct any potential mistakes. Now, just because you're selected does not mean you made a mistake. I will say most people that are have not. This is essentially Department of Ed's own internal audit process. They select a random number of applications each year to make sure that we are checking for accuracy. But also, if just say there is something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense where there could be an error, you very well may have to supply extra documentation so we can make sure you're getting the aid that you're eligible for. So some common ones we might see would be a parent said, I have never been married, but then they said they filed marrying filing jointly. The FAFSA is going to say, I don't know how did that work? So then we might have to just see which one was the correct status, and it's a very simple fix. So we already kind of chatted about this, but just to reiterate, the types of federal student aid that you can get from the FAFSA. So that free money or gift aid, that's the one we would love, love, love to see all of you receive. These are grants, and that's like the Pell Grant as well as the North Carolina grants, and also for things such like the Next NC Scholarship. These are based on that financial need as well as your student aid index. Then we have borrowed money, those loans, and that must be repaid with interest. And earned money, work study. This is how you can earn money while you are currently attending school within that great partnership of a program. So to get more granular about the loans themselves, because not all loans are created equal. So you've already heard me say these words before, but there's subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. So for subsidized loans, this is a loan that you have to have financial need from that calculation we talked about in order to be eligible for. These do not gain interest while you are enrolled in school. You also do not need to make payments while you are enrolled, and you have a 6-month grace period after graduating or you stop attending before you need to make payments. It's a fantastic loan option if you need it. If you are ineligible for subsidized loans, you also could potentially have unsubsidized loans. An unsubsidized loan is also a very great option, especially in comparison to external loan options. But it does accrue interest while you are enrolled. You still do not need to make payments while you are attending school, and you also get that 6-month grace period after graduating to not make payments. I'm going to answer this now. So we were told subsidized loans is going away for anyone after July 2026. No. So that was something that was discussed within the most recent bill, but was not passed. So subsidized loans are still a thing. Do not worry about that. And then I see another hand raise.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was just going to ask, you said they do gain interest as soon as money is borrowed.
Mhm.
However, you do or you are allowed to wait until you graduate to pay. So that
Mhm.
interest just keeps adding to the
Yes.
principal quote, so to say, or the
Yes,
balance.
exactly. So
So you're not required to pay. However, the balance may increase.
yes, and I
Okay.
swear she is not an audience plant, but yes, that is exactly right.
All right. Thank you.
So,
I
no,
appreciate that.
thank you. That is perfect because
Thank you.
essentially you can make payments, but you're
Yes,
not
ma'am.
required to.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, and then once again, plus loan in parent's name. This also does have a bit more flexibility than other loans you might find, even for parents. So, you have the option to defer payments until after your student stops attending school as well. But very similar to the unsubsidized loan, it does accrue interest since the moment it's borrowed. So, once again, it's a great option to defer payments so you don't have to pay, but just keep that interest in mind. So, Wake Tech scholarship opportunities. So, this is just kind of an example of what Wake Tech offers, but also why it's so important to chat with your school since a lot of schools have these little programs a lot of students don't know about. So, one for us, we have our Scott Scholars program. This is an academic scholarship for $5,000 for the year. It also comes with you can have a laptop to use while you are in school, you have a mentor, there's an internship that is paid with that is within your program of study. It's a truly incredible program. And in order to be eligible for this, you do have to enter in with 12 college credit hours. So if you are a CCP student, this is a great option. Otherwise, you can apply for this as a current Wake Tech student. So it's also a wonderful option for continuing students who might need extra aid down the line. We also have Student Government Association, which is a great way to get involved with Wake Tech, and you actually get tuition reimbursement if you participate. So if you want some great experience that can translate really wonderful to a resume and professional experience and also help you with your school billing, there's really no better way than Student Government Association. Athletic scholarships, if you are interested in playing sports while you are in school, you may be eligible for athletic scholarships if you are on the team. So certainly inquire about tryouts and athletic scholarships if you make the team. And finally, for anybody who's considering Wake Tech, starting March 1st, there's the Wake Tech Foundation application. This is for our incoming students as well as current students. It is open from March 1st to April 30th, and this puts you in the running for over 50 scholarships at Wake Tech. It involves you writing an essay to kind of tell us about what your academic goals are and career goals and how you're going to give back to your community with what you accomplish at Wake Tech. And it's a wonderful way to get extra funding when you're first starting out in school. Okay. So before I get into SAP, there was a great question about the FAFSA. So if someone else not related has opened a college savings account for my child, is that counted somewhere on mine or my child's form? This is an excellent question. So if just say that someone else that is not the parent or the student have a 529 account for your child, one, fantastic. Two, you do not need to list it on the FAFSA. Woohoo! So, essentially, that is not considered something that is in your name, and so therefore does not need to be included. So, double win on that one. If your student has one themselves, or if you have one for your student, I know, right? Celebration gift here. I agree. You would have to include it in part of your investments. Okay, so shifting gears, now we're going to talk about how do you keep your financial aid once you get it. So you do have to file the FAFSA every year, but you also do need to be meeting certain standards in order to keep your financial aid. So every school's process and standards for this might differ, but this is the basic. So for the satisfactory academic progress, you might hear it referred to as SAP. So essentially, you as a student have to maintain at least a 2.0 or higher cumulative GPA, and you must pass 67% of the classes you attempt while you are enrolled. If you do not meet these requirements, you may end up being put on warning and possibly lose your financial aid eligibility. So it's really important that while you are attending, if you find yourself having a rough semester, as we all do, to get help early. Work with tutoring, work with Success Coach, and stay in contact with your financial aid office so that way you can minimize the likelihood of this happening. The other piece of satisfactory academic progress is called maximum time frame. So essentially, there is a maximum amount of time that you can be enrolled in a program before we will essentially pause your ability to get financial aid. So essentially, to think about it as if you need to take 60 credits to receive your associate's degree, you have to complete that program within 150% of that program length. So you would get 90 credits worth of aid to complete a 60 credit program. So it is very much doable, but if you find yourself double, triple majoring, or you're taking a lot of extra classes, chat with your financial aid office to make sure you're still okay. So students will be evaluated and notified at the end of every semester enrolled if they are not meeting these standards to let you know if you need to do anything to bring those grades up. Now, if you're not just considering Wake Tech, definitely make sure that you are looking on the financial aid websites of every school that you are looking to attend. They may have different policies for their SAP, and they also may have scholarship eligibility requirements that you should be aware of if you receive a scholarship from your college or university. And with that, you are free of me. I am done. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to financial aid, finaid@waketech.edu. And if you go to the next slide, it has my information. So my name is Christy Saunders. You can reach me at any of these areas. And also, if you find yourself at Wake Tech South, my office is right next to the front desk of financial aid. If my door is open, please feel free to poke your head in and ask a question. I am more than happy to. And really quick, one last question that came through about the 529 plans. What if the step parent has the 529 plan? If you are the parent on the FAFSA and the 529 plan is for the student of the FAFSA, unfortunately, yes, you do need to include that on your FAFSA. And I'll be here and I'll answer more questions in the chat.
I just want to just take some time to say thank you, Ms. Saunders. You gave some really great information. I know it's beneficial for our students and for their parents and guardians. So thank you for all of the information that you shared.
I'm sorry. I do have a question. I'm sorry that I'm late. Is this going to be emailed to the parents, this recording? Are we
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, this will be emailed, and we have a QR code at the end for questions. That way we don't spend so much time on the call.
Gotcha.
So if you all will just maybe jot them down. And Ms. Saunders, I believe, provided her information, and she'll be available in the chat if you just want to type it in and see if you can get a quick answer from her. But otherwise, we'll have a Q&A QR code at the end. And if you are a Southeast parent, I sent you an email with a lot of links. and we are recording this presentation, and it will be made available after tonight. So you have to give us some time to upload it to the website if you joined in late and you missed the information at the beginning.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And good evening. My name is Ms. Upson. I am Alpha E through K counselor. So what happens next? Thank you so much, Ms. Saunders, by the way. Wealth of information. So ideally, a student should find the school that will best suit his or her educational and training needs, as well as fitting their personality. So if 2 or more schools are tied, then the cost can be the determining factor. So that's something that you need to discuss as a family. And where can I get more information? So all of these you can access for more information about financial aid from the links on this slide, and we will add them to the chat now. So my magical Ms. Campbell will probably type that in. But Mr. Clark is often sending out emails with this information getting sent out. So be on the lookout for those as well. So as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, we have a weekly program coordinated with Wake Tech to provide in-person support for our students needing help with college, NC residency application, and financial aid, including completing the FAFSA form. The program is on Southeast Campus, and students just need to register and come down to Student Services for the date and time for the program they registered for. Some families may wish to complete these items at home. Parents were sent an email with some helpful resources to guide you and your student in applying for financial aid. One of those items was the 2025-2026 FAFSA preview presentation, which describes how to fill out the FAFSA depending upon varying family circumstances. We did not see on studentaid.gov that a 2026-2027 FAFSA preview was available, but the information should still be helpful in filling out the current application. You might want to also check your bank to see what types of services they provide for family seeking financial aid assistance. They actually will sit down with you and fill it out with you if you go to your local bank. And thank you. And if you have any questions that were not answered in our presentation, please complete the form that was emailed to you prior to tonight's presentation, or scan this QR code. And myself or one of the other counselors and presenters for tonight will follow up. And I will add the link to the chat for the question and answer form as well.
Okay, so again, I just want to thank all of our families, our Southeast families. I know we have some families from other schools joining in on the call. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and stop recording the presentation, and we'll close out. So you all have some things to discuss tonight at the dinner table. So please follow up with us, and we will be in touch. Have a great school year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You are welcome.